Thank you for pressing start on episode 66 of Underplayed, KZUM's indie video game podcast. Today, we recap and reflect on the games of Season 6 and take a look ahead by planning our featured game roster for Season 7. Here on Underplayed, we review indie games of all kinds, the games with small budgets, but big hearts, the lesser-known experiences with imaginative ideas. I'm Bo Poe, and now joining me is a guy with big dad mode energy, taking you on in River City. He's here to spread joy and transform a toy. It's your Berserk boy, DiscoCola! What is happening?
Not much, man. We're here to review Season 6, and I don't have a reference for you because I don't need one.
You don't need one.
Sometimes that's the hardest part of prepping for an episode.
Yeah, I want to make this episode as easy for you as possible. Yes, so that you can just focus on talking about the games.
But yeah, happy to be here. How are you?
I'm doing super well. You were just telling me about how you're going to help someone transform a toy.
Yeah.
Like here where we live.
Yeah, so there's this used toy store in town, in Redacted, and they got in the HasLab Unicron. And one of the guys that manages that store has been, trying to get me to sell mine to them for a while. But it's the biggest Transformers toy ever created, and it was like crowdfunded and all that. And they got one in, and they're like, hey, could you come transform this for us so that we can sell it?
Could you come transform this toy?
So I'm supposed to go do that right after this.
Wow. Okay. That is so cool. Like
it takes like a long time to do it too.
You're someone people call upon. It's like when there's a guy who knows how to like fix up a certain kind of car and you have to call them, or like any kind of machinery, only one person in the state knows how to do this. We have to call them in. You're that guy.
We got to call Disco to transform a Unicron. I wish they would call me more, honestly, when they get like big Transformers in. I would love to like help them part out,
That is so cool.
But they don't call me for most things.
Oh, I love when people have like specialties that they kind of just do in their free time, and the time flies when they do it.
Dude, yeah, I did it for them one time, like before I had kids, before I even went back to college, and it was like a great fun, but someday.
Well, we will keep you here for a few hours before you're able to help them transform a toy.
That's fine.
But yes, thank you everybody for joining us for this episode. It is our Season 6 finale episode, so this does not resemble the rest of the episodes from the season. This is where we are at the end of the season and we're reflecting on the 30 games we played in the past 10 episodes. And we started premiering Season 6 several months ago, and now here we are at the end. We'll also, in the last segment of this episode, pick our lineup of 10 featured games for the next season, which is Season 7. And we just want to make the note up top, like we always do, that ultimately the idea of comparing all the games we played this past season, ranking them, giving them awards, it is ultimately kind of arbitrary, right? Because we always pick 10 very different, disparate games to throw into a season. This is a good excuse, though, to look back before looking ahead. And it's just another chance to talk about the games that made an impact on us. And with that, we actually want to move into a segment we do every season on this episode, which is where we give out thank yous for all kinds of reasons to all kinds of people that we love. We have a list here. It's pretty long.
Yeah.
We'll just go back and forth. How about you share the first thank you?
Okay. Big thank you out to Babooby Games for accepting us into their partnership and affiliate program. This is something that they put a call out for, and I applied for because I'm really looking forward to the Heirloom. And we got accepted to that program, and looking forward to what that brings our way in the coming year or two.
Yes. They are releasing the Heirloom in October, and we hope to hear more about that very soon. Next, we want to thank Fellow Traveler, the publisher of many indie narrative games, because they gifted us a full access key to Ludo Narracon 2024. And through that, I got to learn about a lot of really cool upcoming narrative games, and I talked about them briefly this past season. So thank you, Fellow Traveler.
And thank you, Bopo, for putting in the work on all those games.
Oh, yeah,
It's
absolutely.
it
And
had to have taken a lot of time.
it did take quite a bit of time. It was kind of like a mini Next Fest that week that I
Yeah.
played those. And thank you for applying for the Babooby Games
Yeah, no worries.
partnership. Yeah.
Next up, thank you to Matt White, developer of Ghost Song. He checked out the episode and shared some kind words about how we felt about it. So it was really cool to hear from him.
We also want to thank Out of the Blue Games, developers of American Arcadia, for listening to our review and showing their appreciation.
We want to thank your friend Chris for gifting you We Who Are About to Die, one of your secret games, without which you wouldn't have played that, obviously.
Yeah, one of those instances where I get a Christmas gift and I think, oh, I got to save this in my back pocket for a season of Underplayed, and it worked out really well. We also want to thank Disco's brother, Sir Quokka, for being a co-op partner during Young Souls, which was one of Disco's secret games.
Yeah, and all of our other co-op partners, Takebacks and Grant, for being co-op partners on Castle Crashers Remastered and sharing their thoughts in a recording for us.
Yes, it's not just that they agreed to meet up with us for a few hours and play the game, they also gave their thoughts on it, and it's always cool to get that perspective too. We want to thank Jonathan from Frambosa, developer of Billy Bum Bum, a cheeky puzzler, for interacting with us and reminding me to check out their game whose demo I really liked, and it
Cool.
ended up being one of my secret games.
Thank you to Keyrat from Color Grave for gifting us a key for Curse Crackers, For Whom the Bell Toils. That game was a lot of fun. I loved it. And I also just found out that one of our friends started that today on our recommendation. So looking forward to how she likes it.
Love that. It's like people like listening to your recommendations and that you're good at giving them.
And it's like indie games are really good.
Yes, absolutely. I want to thank my wife
Hooray!
for marrying me. And for also being a co-op partner for Duck Detective, The Secret Salami. I had so much fun, and it added a layer to that review and that experience of playing that game.
I want to thank Drake for being a shoulder to cry on, so to speak, during Dredge and teaching me that the gear is where I do research and not settings. And Grant of Coffee fame, Grant, has kind of been doing that to me over the last couple weeks. And he told me today that he platinumed Dredge.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
So he was asking for advice from you?
Yes.
That's so cool.
And I was like, you should talk to Drake. I didn't complete the game.
This is the part that I didn't do. That's so cool. Yeah, Drake and Grant are some of our IRL friends. So
Yeah.
thank you, guys. We want to thank a specific egg for being our very good friend and our guest for the Super Meat Boy episode and for gifting us a few games reviewed throughout the season. Thank you so much.
And we also want to thank Cater Blossom for being on the Dredge episode and also for being our good friend and also for gifting us games that we've reviewed this season.
We also want to thank all our friends who watched our individual streams of Underplayed games at twitch.tv/DiscoCola and twitch.tv/BO__PO. Those are our Twitch channels. And we want to stream on Twitch as much as we can while we have the energy. And it just makes sense to play a lot of these podcast games on stream. And so many of our friends who join those streams cheer us on. They celebrate the victories and the completion of the game. So thank you all.
And it's a fun time. And we almost had someone spoil a secret game this season because I was streaming a secret game and they were in your chat. They were like, "Hey, Disco, what's that game you were playing the other night?"
Yes, and I was averting my eyes.
Which is the risk I run when I play secret games, and
Right.
I know that. And I take steps to hide what I can.
I think I've maybe almost gotten spoiled once when I saw that you were live, but then I darted my eyes away before I saw the category,
Yep.
you know?
And so when you told me that, I was like, okay, anytime I'm streaming a secret game, it just says games and demos.
Yeah.
And that's sort of my hack.
Okay.
Anyways, moving on, we want to thank all of our friends who listen to the Underplayed Twitch broadcasts. We premiere our episodes early on Monday night on Twitch. So it's a good opportunity to hear the episode early at night if that's better for your schedule, and you get a chat with other listeners and us in the Twitch chat, and it's a lot of fun.
Yes, and along with that, people who watch the co-op streams of Castle Crashers Remastered, that's also where we do co-op games. So thank you all, whether you watch those early broadcasts or the co-op games. Everyone who listened to Underplayed episodes on podcast services, we want to thank you. We also want to thank you if you commented on the episodes and shared the podcast with others. We appreciate you so much.
And if you gave us a review, thank you. I
Oh,
noticed that we
yes.
got a couple new reviews this season.
Yes, we
so.
did. Thank you so much. Great call out there. Yeah.
And then lastly, we want to thank KZUM for allowing us into the podcast partner program all those years ago. They give us the space and the equipment to produce the podcast, and we would not be what we are today without KZUM. So thank you, thank you, thank you.
Is there anything else you want to say up top, Disco, or do you want to just roll right into reflecting on the season?
Oof, I think I'm ready.
Okay. And before we move on, real quick, if you're listening to Underplayed right now, thank you. And we love you. If you haven't already, please consider giving us a follow and a 5-star rating on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. It should only take a few seconds, and we would really love that. And if you have a friend who likes indie games, or maybe they just like podcasts where people talk passionately about things they love, consider sharing our podcast with them too. We would also really love that. It's time for our Season 6 recap and reflection.
Heckers.
So the first part of our recap and reflection is looking at all the secret games we played for this season. We're going to quickly review what games we each played for our secret games. We're going to talk about the scores we gave to each one, and then we will talk about those superficial scores. The scores aren't everything, of course, but they represent, at a very quick glance, our feelings on the games. So we think that they still have a story to tell there. Disco, could you just look through your list and tell us what you played in order and the score you gave to each game?
Sure. For episode 56, which is the first episode of the season, I played Ghost Song. I gave that an 8.5. Next, on our co-op episode, I played Young Souls with Sir Quokka. I gave that an 8. For episode 58, I played The Missing, J.J. Macfield and the Island of Memories, and I gave that a 7. On the next episode, I played O Vivo. I gave that a 6.5. On the following episode, I gave Curse Crackers, For Whom the Bell Toils, a 9.5. I gave Far Lone Sails an 8. In episode 62, I gave Happy Game a 4.5. And then Zeo Drifter a 9. And then Flow an 8.5. And then Amochapan, in our previous episode, I gave that a 9.
My 10 secret games and their ratings are Demon Turf with a 5.5, We Who Are About to Die with a 6.5, American Arcadia with an 8.5, Billy Bum Bum, A Cheeky Puzzler with a 7.5, Post Void with a 6, Duck Detective, The Secret Salami with an 8, Garden Galaxy with an 8, El Paso Elsewhere with a 7.5, The Room 2 with an 8, and Of Moons and Mania with a 7. So my average score was a 7.25. Your average score was a 7.85. Is there anything you notice about your scores? Would you change anything about your scores up or down at this point?
I think so, because I've been thinking this week about, I've been reflecting this week and trying to remember all the games that I played. And I don't remember, a lot of them. So I'm thinking that I might take Lone Sails and Zeo Drifter down by 0.5. I could possibly go down a full point on Flow.
Wow.
I just didn't really enjoy controlling it. And it is a little bit shallow fun at the end of the day.
I did think that you gave that a pretty positive score for what it was.
Yeah. But I think I could add 0.5 to Young Souls, because I think Young Souls is doing some really cool stuff, and that art
Cool.
direction is really strong.
It looks super fun.
Yeah.
I was very interested in the screenshots you sent me for that game. For me, I feel pretty good about all these, I think. I'm still kind of confused about what I should rate of Moons and Mania, just because it is such an unconventional gaming experience, but it's one that I'm very glad to have taken. So that's why I went with an overall positive score. Demon Turf was my first secret game, and it's the lowest rating I gave the whole season. So I started out of the gate with just one I didn't like as much. But I did want to report that somebody soon after we recorded this episode, reached out to us on Twitter, and they said that Demon Turf Neon Splash, which is like a follow-up game in this world that's much shorter, is much more finely tuned and fixes a lot of the things that I found frustrating in the original Demon Turf. So I might be checking that out at some point. I just
Okay.
wanted to address that game that I didn't like as much.
Cool.
But
I'll be happy to hear.
yeah, so we'll see if and when I get to that. But yeah, I'm looking at the rest of this. Maybe Post Void could go down a little bit just because I don't see myself ever wanting to play that again, and it was an assault on the senses when I was playing it. American Arcadia was super strong for me. I could go up on that, maybe like 0.5. But yeah, I feel really good about all that stuff.
Cool.
And then next, we will review all of our featured games and the ratings we gave to those. So I'll just do that real quick. In order, this season, we had Blasphemous, which we both rated a 9.5. Then we had Castle Crashers Remastered, which you gave an 8, I gave a 6. Then it was Super Meat Boy. You gave that a 6.5, I gave it a 9. We had Cocoon next, which we both rated a 9.5. We had Pizza Tower then with 8.5 from you and an 8 from me. And then Viewfinder with an 8.5 from you and a 9 from me. Then we had Dredge. We both rated that an 8.5. We had Axiom Verge 2. You gave it a 7. I gave it a 6.5. And then Chance of Sonar. You gave it a 9.5. I gave it a 9. And Sea of Stars, same story. You gave it a 9.5. I gave it a 9. My average score for featured games this season was 8.4. Your average score was 8.5, which is a super high ranking season of scores for featured games.
Yeah, there were like 3 games on here that I was dreading playing, I would say. So
You were dredging.
I was dredging, and Dredge was one of them.
Was it really?
Yeah.
You were dredging Dredge.
I was not looking forward to it, if I'm honest.
Yeah, I remember you saying that. Yeah.
Yeah, looking at this, I could bring a few games down by 0.5. I might bring Castle Crashers down by 0.5 because I recognize a lot of its flaws, and the concept of completing it sounds annoying. I could bring Dredge down by 0.5 maybe. I think I had a lot of fun playing it in the moment, but apart from, a couple of moments here and there, I don't think back to it too much. Maybe I could bring Pizza Tower down. I think what makes it so strong for me is how much I appreciate the controls of the game and how like somehow it still functions as a game while still being so high octane.
There's a lot in there that you can do, and it
so
somehow works.
It's really impressive. So I think that's why it's so high for me, but it is also like assaulting at times to go through Pizza Tower.
Yeah. For things that I would adjust, I might add points, honestly. Like I might bump up Chance of Sonar and Sea of Stars just because those were very special experiences for me. So I admire your scores there being 9.5s, whereas mine were 9s for those games. But I'm noticing just when you look at our scores together, there are 3 games where we had the same exact score: Blasphemous, Cocoon, and Dredge. We gave the exact same score. And then I think, if I'm counting correctly, 5 other games we were within 0.5 of each other's scores.
Yeah.
So it just felt like we were like super on the same page about so many of these games as far as like how we felt.
No, the only ones where we were like really different were Castle Crashers and Super Meat Boy.
Yeah. And those were like early on in the season. We like got those out of the way very early. But I totally understand why we approached those differently, how we saw those differently. I think we expressed that really well in those episodes. But yeah, I wouldn't change a whole lot here. But now we get to the big category. This is what
we're all here for, folks.
Yes, we're talking about all these games, all these scores. Well, now, what are our top 5 games from Season 6? That's what we're going to rank right now. This is each of us going back and forth, starting with our number 5s, going down to number 1, listing our favorite games from this season. All 5 from each of our lists can be secret, or they can be featured, or they can be a mixture. This ranking is an emotional decision based on how we feel right now in this moment that we're recording. We're disregarding our scores as well. So I might have scored a certain game an 8, but maybe my feelings on it have improved, and I think it's maybe higher in my list than a game I gave a 9, for instance. We're disregarding all those scores. We're not nitpicking that. So it's just our opportunity to list our top 5. And we'll share a little bit about why we like each game as we go back and forth as well. And so, DiscoCola, let's start with you with your number 5. What is your number 5 game of season 6?
My number 5 game is Curse Crackers for Whom the Bell Toils.
Hackers.
I really love this game. I think anytime that a modern game can perfectly recapture an old game style, like perfectly without adding like a bunch of modern flares, that's really impressive, especially when it comes to like recreating 8-bit music. That's not an easy thing to do anymore. So you have to be really skilled, really talented. But on top of that, the platforming feels incredible to play, and it just always looks good. And I think it's a really special game. And I hope you especially, Bopo, play it someday.
You made it sound very attractive when you talked about it. That's all I'll say right now. Might talk about it in a second. We'll see. But that's super cool. Love that it's on your list. My number 5 game of season 6 is Sea of Stars.
Oh, wow. At number 5. Okay.
Yes. Sea of Stars is an incredible adventure filled with characters that I think are more surprising than you think when you first start this game. There are so many places you go in Sea of Stars, and everywhere you go, there's a beautiful soundscape and there's just a lush environment waiting for you. This game is approachable, even though it is a 30 to 40 hour RPG. That can be daunting, but if you have ever been curious, listener, about trying a JRPG, or maybe it's been a while since you've played a JRPG, playing Sea of Stars might be the thing that invigorates you to explore the genre. I think this is a game that is super polished and super thoughtful toward the player in so many categories. It checks so many boxes, and that's why it's my number 5.
And I'm going to volley off of that because my number 4 is Sea of Stars.
Oh, man.
I think it takes all of the best parts of the admittedly few JRPGs I have played and throws them all in a blender and gives it just this beautiful pixel art covering. I love the pixel art in this game, and I didn't think I was going to. And it's just a lot of fun. Like, I found myself, even though it was getting to be like hour 40, 42, 43, I found myself compelled to keep going. It balances that casual turn-based RPG style with just the right amount of action input. So it's taking up my attention, but it's not taking up an overwhelming amount of my attention. And I never feel too overwhelmed. I never feel like the world is against me in this game. So I love Sea of Stars for that.
So true. Also, I meant to say this here, but moments before I came to the station to record this episode, I did do the secret ending like fully, and I got the gold star on my save file.
Hackers,
So
baby.
now I'm in that boat where I need to go through New Game Plus with that one relic and like re-defeat those bosses, and then I'll have the platinum. So like I'm still doing those miscellaneous tasks too in the post game after dozens of hours with Sea of Stars. Yeah, it's a great game. I'm glad it's on both of our lists. My number 4 of season 6 is Dredge.
Oh,
This initially was not in my top 5, and the more I thought about it and the more I went back to this game to find all the fish, and then to do the Pale Reach DLC, and then to, as recently as yesterday, find all the fish and do all the quests and all the miscellaneous activities in the Iron Rig, I just find myself getting lost in this game every time I revisit it. So I now have 100% again in this game. I've put closer to like 35 or 36 hours now into this game.
wow.
After doing the Iron Rig. And 3 things I really like in games: exploration, collection, and mysteries. All 3 of those things are in Dredge. I'm always asking myself, like, what kind of fish am I going to find next? What is really going on in this world? And I think some of the answers to those questions, or maybe how those answers are told to us, aren't always the most satisfying. But this game is a vibe, and it's got vibes that are thick. And I love that. I love just getting lost in this game and seeing what weird person from this coastal town I'll talk to next, what strange creature I'll find next. It's full of surprises, maybe more in subtle ways, but I like that sometimes. I don't need every surprise to just punch me in the face.
Mhm.
And so this game has 100 small surprises that really add up to something special. So that's why Dredge is my number 4.
Alrighty. So I have my list that I made last night. I'm thinking about swapping these two.
Like taking your 3 and your 2 and making
Yeah.
them your 2 and your 3?
Yep.
Oh,
I'm thinking about it.
it's how you feel right now.
I know.
And like we obviously know, you love both. They're in your top 5.
I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna swap them.
Whoa.
I'm
Okay.
gonna say my next one is Chance of Sonar.
Oh.
I said
amazing.
it. I said it in the episode itself. Playing Chance of Sonar was probably some of the most fun I had all season. I think that remains true if I take a glance at all of my secret games and all of my featured games. I mean, Curse Crackers was really fun to play. Young Souls was pretty fun to play, but I found so much joy in Chance of Sonar that was just so satisfying. I've never considered myself a language nerd because I don't read. I don't read books
Sure.
or anything.
Yeah.
But I've always had a love of like, where does this word find its root? Like, what's the root word here? And like that comes from Digimon, honestly.
Oh,
is like
okay. Yeah.
every Digimon name means something. And I don't know if the two are connected, but I loved deciphering Chance of Sonar. It was so much fun to get that journal complete. And I was so happy when I did.
Well, I'm going to bounce off of that because my number 3 is also Chance of Sonar.
Heckers.
What a sense of accomplishment you get in this game. It can be frustrating to go through some of the cultures and just have all these symbols in front of you, and you get decoder's block. That's what I'll call it. Just you're overwhelmed sometimes by how many possibilities there could be for like words matched to symbols. But then sometimes, just like other puzzle games we've played, making one solution causes this cascade effect, this domino effect.
Yes.
And you start locking tons of stuff into place. You're filling out that journal, which is an excellent journal, by the way.
Tell me about that journal.
You know I love a good journal. It's clean, it's straightforward, I don't fumble with it, etc. But then you go through this world, and the meaning of what this game is a whole other layer of special. And it's giving me goosebumps right now.
Oh, I see him.
You see him right there. I'm thinking about how these cultures perceive each other, block themselves from each other, and how you sort of undo a lot of that stuff and how you make them see the world differently. The true ending conclusion is such a triumphant moment in this game that I think back to quite a lot. So yeah, I love Chance of Sonar, and I also love that it's both of our number 3s.
Heckers. I love when that happens. That doesn't happen often.
No, it doesn't.
Has it happened?
I think it has once or twice.
Okay.
Yeah.
My number 2 is Ghost Song.
Oh my gosh, wow.
If you are going off a score with your predictions, Bopo, this might not be on your list, but this is an example of one of the very few games I have on a list where it changed my DNA. I think about Ghost Song all the time, and there's a lot of reasons for it, and Ghost Song will appear in a lot of categories later, and those categories all play a role in why I continue to love Ghost Song so much. But the emotional impact of all of our characters and just taking on the role of Blue in this game left a mark on me in a very great and beautiful way. And I'm very happy to have finally played Ghost Song and experienced something I wasn't expecting.
That's incredible. And I know this game wasn't perfect for you, but it seems like the story, the setting, the emotional journey that it takes you on, how these characters just talk, the philosophy behind how these characters behave by the developer is something that just transcends some of the negative aspects of it for you. And if there was a category of like ranking recording moments from the season, one of my favorite moments, if not my favorite, would be just how you talked about these characters in the first episode of season 6. I could tell that you were just in love with this world.
Getting back to that moment just a little bit right now.
Little misty-eyed. That's awesome. My number 2 of season 6 is Cocoon.
Okay.
Cocoon is full of wonder, again, mystery, and it's a game that I played twice because I loved it. And I loved it for so many reasons. I think this game is just so polished. It's so hard to think of complaints for this game. I said it in our review, but like I was kind of grasping at very thin criticisms
Mhm.
for when I got to my dislike section. There's not like a story here that sucks me in. It's more, again, a world that sucks me in. It's a feeling that sucks me in. The puzzles here have the Goldilocks effect.
They do.
They feel just right. The way this game can be picked up by any person who's able to hold a controller and just look at a screen and they'll kind of understand it is incredible to me. I think about the wild brain bending moments that I'm still not sure how they work, but I assumed that they would work that way. And sometimes I was right. And that's such a rewarding feeling. I just think it's a great follow up to Limbo and Inside from Jeppe Carlson
Mhm.
and their team. And it's an incredible debut. I just love Cocoon so much.
Well, I will say that if I had a runner up, Cocoon would be the one probably.
That's fair.
So spoilers, my number one is not Cocoon. I do love also that Green Inside Green is the name of one of the songs on the soundtrack. And I
Is
think
it really?
it is.
It
That's so
is?
hilarious.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
That's
it's
amazing.
Very funny. I feel like you're expecting this, but my number one is Blasphemous.
Yes.
Kind of expecting that we'll be hearing a little bit more on this. I think Blasphemous was a huge surprise. Like I had started it, all those years ago because I thought the art style was really cool. I love some of that Ars Goshen, messed up kind of character design and stuff. And so I was looking forward to playing it. But then I played it and I got my butt kicked and I was like, oof, I'm going to pump the brakes for a little while.
Right.
Had an excuse to come back to it. Really happy that we played it because this game's incredible. It's confirming to me that I really do love Metroidvanias. I think it is probably my favorite
Oh my
subgenre
God.
of game.
I thought you were going to say favorite Metroidvania in the genre.
I'd have to think about it, but
It might be up there.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it
yeah.
literally might be. Hollow Knight might still have it. But anyways, it's just incredible. Once you start to get powered up, nothing feels insurmountable, but nothing at the same time is a total pushover.
Yeah, nothing's trivial ever in this game,
The
but
game
you just
is
feel more and more powerful.
The game's incredible. It's dedicated to its style and design, and the way that it hides secrets is not frustrating. Like you're never getting trapped from full sections of the game, really. It's hard to explain,
Yeah.
but I think we explained it in the episode. But whenever you see a secret, you can mark it on the map and you can come back to it and you don't have to go through a whole ton of hullabaloo to get secrets, but none of them are so, with maybe two exceptions, none of them are so well hidden that you can just straight up not find them. So I don't know. There's a lot to love about Blasphemous. There's also a lot for people to not love about Blasphemous if you're sensitive to certain depictions of pain and torture. And I would always keep that in mind if you're interested in this game.
That's the biggest roadblock to me easily recommending this to basically anybody who likes action games.
Yeah.
I would just make the asterisk of, you might like action, but you might not like all of this very aggressive gore.
There's some really upsetting stuff to behold. But my number one is Blasphemous, and I expect Bose's as well.
My number one of season 6 is Blasphemous. For all the reasons you said, it's so hard to follow you up because you just summed it up so well there. But how do you make this game just this good for this long and this big?
Mm-hmm.
This is a Metroidvania, like you said, and I've played several Metroidvanias that I love. It's probably not my favorite either. I probably still like Hollow Knight and some other ones more. But the way this game defies your expectations by doing something else that's just as good or maybe something else that's better.
Mm-hmm.
That's so cool. We expected to get a certain power in this game. We didn't get it, and instead we got like three or four
something I've never seen in a game before.
I've never seen in a game before, and I always love that too. I love seeing things I've never seen before, and that's what I saw in Blasphemous. The character designs are gnarly. The action is gnarly. The music, the soundscape just draws you in. There's a lot of miscellaneous content, and there's a lot of side content that weaves together in ways that just seem so intricate. Like you feel like you're playing a tapestry of story and gameplay, and it feels so good to be sucked into that. You sometimes have no sense of how much is left, and I don't mind that because I love every inch of this game. I think it's just fantastic. Yeah, so Blasphemous is both of our number ones. Again, can you just review your top 5, starting with 5, going to 1?
Yeah, okay, so for number 5, I picked Curse Crackers, For Whom the Bell Toils. For number 4, I picked Sea of Stars. 3 was Chants of Sonar. 2 was Ghost Song, and 1 was Blasphemous.
And my top 5 again were number 5, Sea of Stars, number 4, Dredge, number 3, Chants of Sonar, number 2, Cocoon, and number 1, Blasphemous. And I had all featured games this time. Sometimes I do have a mixture, but there are some games I just could not find room for. 2 other featured games, actually. I wanted to put Super Meat Boy and Viewfinder in here. I also wanted to put American Arcadia in my list. There was just I looked, Disco, there was no room. I checked several times. There was not enough room for those
No matter
games.
how many times I looked at it, the number never got bigger. It was always 5.
It was always 5. So you mentioned a runner-up there in Cocoon.
Yeah,
too.
yeah. I think I had a couple that I was like struggling with as well, but Cocoon was definitely one of them.
We also predicted what we would each pick for our top 5s. So looking at your predictions, how did you fare?
Not great, Bopo, I'll say. Because both of your runner-ups I had at 5 and 4. I had Super Meat Boy at 5. I had Viewfinder at 4. I had Cocoon at 3. And I actually put Blasphemous at 2. I don't know what I was smoking that day. I knew it should have been number 1 because I put Sea of Stars at number 1.
Wow.
So you threw me a little bit of a curveball here
By putting
with
Sea of
Chants of
Stars.
Sonar.
I did.
Or no, with Dredge. I did not expect Dredge to be on your list.
Yeah, you didn't expect Dredge or Chants of Sonar, and you expected Viewfinder and Super Meat Boy in there, and then just the placements for Cocoon, Blasphemous, and Sea of Stars were just a little off. My predictions for yours were number 5, Cocoon, number 4, a Machapon.
Ooh, yeah, that was
just because
another runner-up, yeah.
Yes, I imagined so, just because of how personal the topic of that game is for you as like a toy lover. But I didn't think it would be the highest game. Now, however, I nailed Chants of Sonar.
Nice.
I thought you would put that at your number 3. You did, as did I. I thought your number 2 would be Curse Crackers.
Curse Crackers, yeah.
It was your
That
number
makes
5.
sense.
For Whom the Bell Toils. I'm just typing this in as we go.
And I said that if Cocoon was a runner-up, if I swapped it out, I wouldn't swap it for Curse Crackers. I'd probably swap it for Sea of Stars. I think no matter what, Curse Crackers is on my list.
Curse Crackers has to be in there, yeah. And I love that we think of it in those terms. Like we don't necessarily adhere to the scores here. It makes it more interesting, I think.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then I thought Blasphemous was your number 1, and it was. So I got
Cool.
2 dead on. And then Curse Crackers was in the wrong spot, and then I whiffed with Cocoon and a Machapon.
No, you did better than I did, my friend, so you're all good.
It's always fun to do that. I doubt one of us will ever ace that.
I don't know, man.
I don't know. Who knows? Who knows? It's so hard. There's so many variables.
I'm not writing us off just yet. Okay, well, that was the top 5. We did it, everybody.
Woo!
You can go home, but if you like the rest of the stuff, we do have more.
Please stay.
Please stay. We're going to play in season 7, and there's some cool stuff that we're doing, so stick around. But we also have some other stuff that we love to do. This is another one of my favorite categories, the Jealous Game. Games that Bopo played as a secret game that I want to play, or games that I played as a secret game that Bopo wants to play. I'm pretty sure I know what his is, and he maybe knows what mine is. I also don't totally know for sure because there's two I'm looking at. You know, in our previous recording, I said I was going to play Of Moons and Mania that night. I didn't get around to it because I was busy. I still plan to play that, so I was kind of hoping to come with a Dujana kind of a thing here
Yeah, I
today.
thought you might do that, but I didn't want to like hold you to it.
But my jealous game is actually El Paso Elsewhere.
Amazing. Amazing.
I don't like shoot a man, kill a guy games. But the way you painted the depiction of this world and how it changes and how it's like sub-natural really drew me in, and I'm kind of interested in this. Like I've listened to a little bit of the music too, so I'm really interested in how the music sounds on that imagery,
Yeah.
and just kind of going about it. So I'm probably going to play El Paso Elsewhere. I think they just announced a physical copy for it a couple weeks ago. So I'm probably going to grab that for myself and hopefully find the time to play El Paso Elsewhere. Else when.
Else when. And yeah, I think in like early September, they're going to release the PS5 version. So it's coming, baby.
Who do you know who that is through?
I don't know the physical, but it's just that's when Strange Scaffold
Oh,
is
got it.
September 6th, it looks like, unless it gets delayed. But so yeah, you'll be able to play that on a console of choice. We mentioned this last episode when we talked about games that have gotten ports. This is like the most recent one from games we've played. But this game is so psychological, and that's really the main reason why I would recommend El Paso Elsewhere to you, because I think you would just love how the psychological nature informs the mood and also the level design and the gameplay. It is so central here. My jealous game for season 6 is Happy Game. I'm just kidding. It's Curse Crackers, For Whom the Bell Toils. I want to be an acrobat. I want to bounce on people's heads. I want to throw chime. I want to do all the things you talked about.
I think you'll love it. I think you'll love it. And it has all of those like built-in systems from all those games that you love, like the collecting all the different coins from your Donkey Kong Country games and your Kaze and the Wild Masks. I think this game was made for a Bopo.
God.
So I'm really looking forward to you trying it. And
I think so too. Yeah.
Not looking forward to you being better at it than I am, but I know that you will be.
Well, I will be streaming this game very soon.
Heckers!
Just like I did with Bat Boy. Not probably like immediately. I want to wait for this episode to come out first. Then I will probably stream Curse Crackers.
Yeah, our friend Cater Blossom also started this, and all she says is, also I started Curse Crackers today, and words that we can't say on the podcast, so I'm hoping that's a good thing. But
she told me the same thing, and I asked, like, what do you like about Curse Crackers? And she said several things that like reinforced what you said.
Oh, perfect. Good.
So
Thank goodness.
No, yeah, I think she's having a great time with it. But yeah, I can't wait to play it. You know I love a platformer.
Yeah.
So there you go. And next we go to our underrated games or games they don't get. This is where we can choose one if we have an entry. An entry is optional here, but the way we interpret this topic can be incredibly subjective. But each of us can mention a game from this past season that is something along the lines of being misunderstood by others whose opinions we've heard or read about, or having critic review scores we feel are too harsh, or being quite literally underplayed, and maybe not enough people have enjoyed this particular game we played. Did you have an underrated game for this season?
I do. Generally, when I pick something for this category, it tends to be like ones that are literally underplayed.
Yeah. 99% of the time, they're going to be secret games.
Yes.
Because featured games are usually more well-known games.
Yes. So, I mean, technically, Omochapan is literally underplayed because it's only, 3 weeks old at this point.
Okay.
But I think my official pick is actually Curse Crackers. I don't know how many people have played it on Switch, but there's not a ton of Steam reviews. And I think it masterfully does platforming and masterfully recreates this old Game Boy Color style to perfection. So Curse Crackers is my official pick.
Like you pointed out in that review, I had it on my wish list, but it wasn't immediately conjuring in my mind because I saw it somewhere and I put it on my wish list and then I kind of forgot about it. So like that was me acknowledging like I probably would want to play this someday, but it's not going to live in my mind. And I feel like it's just one of those games that doesn't live in people's minds.
Right, I
And
agree.
it
Yeah.
probably could live in more people's minds. My underrated game for season 6 is Billy Bum Bum, a cheeky puzzler.
Ooh, okay. I could have guessed that.
Billy Bum Bum, a cheeky puzzler, I think is just a game that more people could play. It is a puzzle game that is tongue in cheek, that is very clean. It's just got a very like spotless look to it, and it just feels really good to control. And it's one of those puzzle games where I think the puzzle difficulty is just right. Maybe not for every single puzzle in the game, but the main path of puzzles that takes you to the end credits did not become so hard that I looked up solutions. So that just made the experience a very like approachable one and one that I enjoyed taking all the way through. As you get off the beaten path and you try those like more optional levels, things will get very hard. But this game offers quite a large quantity of puzzles, and how much you want to explore is sort of up to the player. You know, it's not going to have characters that are going to be on my list of favorite characters for the season or anything, but it is a pleasant time. So that's why it's my underrated game.
Perfect. Next is the flip side of that coin. We're going to talk about games that we think are overrated or games we don't get. Again, having an entry is optional, but this is really subjective. They could be something that we feel are overpraised by others, or having review scores that are we feel too generous, or just being overenjoyed by a lot of people. I have an entry here, and it's similar to an entry that I probably should have had back in season 1, but my pick here is Axiom Verge 2.
Oh, okay.
I kind of think both Axiom Verge games, having played them both now and lived through them, I think they're both kind of overrated, to be honest. So that's my pick. I don't feel super strongly about it, and I don't have a good follow up because it would have been easy for me to say like I didn't like Super Meat Boy, so Super Meat Boy is my pick. But I think the reasons that people like Super Meat Boy
Are valid.
and that they do it very well. It's just not my thing.
That makes sense. My entry here, I feel pretty passionately about. It's Castle Crashers Remastered.
Fair enough.
You could probably guess this one, but this is a game that's sold, like if you take all the versions of Castle Crashers, it's sold tens of millions of copies. This is not an underplayed game. We said that in the review, but it is an indie game that's higher profile, and that's why it was on our featured game list. And I played it way back when it came out, like, you know, in the aughts, you know, I played it around then, but I never finished it. And after revisiting it with our co-op partners and playing the whole game, I just didn't find a lot here that felt terribly like modern or deep. It was fun to play with our friends. It was shallow fun for a lot of it. And I just found maybe more frustrations than positives about it. They've been able to keep it up to date when it comes to maybe the performance or the frame rates or the visuals here and there. But when it comes to what's there at the core, it's still Castle Crashers from back in the day. And it just doesn't do a whole lot to make an impression on me, honestly. So that's why it's my overrated game.
Cool.
And now our biggest surprises. This is where we can choose up to 5 moments. The way this can be interpreted can be incredibly subjective. We can look at all the games we played for the season and pick some qualities or moments from them that were unexpected, and they can be positive, neutral, or negative surprises. DiscoCola, what is your first surprise of the season?
These are kind of in order, so I'm just going to go from my least surprising surprise to my most surprising surprise.
Okay. Mine are chronological with where we played the game in the season.
Okay.
Yep.
So up first for me is sort of the final moments and the song drop that happens at the end of Curse Crackers. Up to that point, we're hearing like this masterfully composed Game Boy Color sound and game, and they did that really well. But then all of a sudden, someone singing to me in this like final boss fight.
Yeah, there are lyrics in this game?
Yeah, I
What?
was not expecting that, and it really drove home the literal gravity of the situation.
Okay.
Oh, that's a little breadcrumb for you
Wow, say no
since you're playing
more.
this soon.
Say no more.
So that's my first one.
My first surprise from the season is not having a brutally challenging experience in Blasphemous.
Yeah.
Like you said, this game is hard at first. When you start Blasphemous, you can kind of get your butt kicked, and you put the game down a couple years ago after having kind of a hard time. And I definitely like saw that in the first few hours. I was like, "Uh-oh, am I going to be able to play this really long Metroidvania and like have a good time?" But like you said a moment ago, the more you play this game, the more you upgrade your Penitent One, the more the challenges become surmountable, while not being trivial all the same. So, like, it's a great balance throughout the game, and I just expected to have a much harder time with Blasphemous.
Cool, cool. My next one is also from Blasphemous, but it's more specific. It's just getting that linen of golden thread. I loved that item. Never seen it before in a game. Jumping into pits, how counterintuitive, but it works in this.
We're conditioned to avoid the pits, and now we need to look for them and like get excited when we see them.
And it's like a traversal element, and you
Yeah.
like you get around locked doors by doing it. It's so cool.
My next surprise is it's kind of a big one because it's not necessarily one moment, but it's just this idea of the true identities and the fates of characters in American Arcadia. And this is something I can't really say here because I don't want to spoil. I don't want to go into detail, but you think about a lot of characters in a certain way. You are told that characters are a certain way, that they have certain stories, that something happened to certain characters. And this game is just replete with surprises about what happens to people and like who people really are. And so
Mhm.
that's what keeps you guessing about what's going to happen next. And I would say if I had to boil it down to like one moment, I could say like there's a character you meet early on and you find out what really happened to them. And I'd say that's a huge surprise for me. Some
Okay,
people might see it coming, but it's hit me out of left field. Like I didn't see it.
cool.
So yeah.
Okay, so my next one is the ending of Dredge. Well, the bad ending. I didn't get the good ending.
Sure, sure. Yep.
It's partially a complaint just because it just kind of like happens, in the blink of an eye.
Mhm.
But also what happens is pretty cool and not necessarily what I expected. So that's it.
That's
It's
fair.
that simple.
Yeah, I would say my biggest surprise with the ending of Dredge is that aspect of how sudden it was. That's one layer of it, but then also just what happens. But that's actually not in my list. Maybe it should have been, but I still feel good about the rest of these surprises. My next surprise is being taught to let go of the things that don't spark joy in Garden Galaxy. Um, this is a quality that I didn't expect this game that's just an idle collecting game to teach me, but I'm a person who loves collecting digital things. I like collecting items in games. I like, my Animal Crossing storage is unhinged. I have every item in Animal Crossing or something. And I just love getting access to things. I love collecting things. And in Garden Galaxy, you collect things very quickly at the start. You start collecting more things than you can hold on to. And there was a pretty rough period where I had to get used to that, try to cope with that, and it just got worse and worse. And then I realized, you know what? All these items can come back again. So I'm going to get rid of these 10 things I don't want. And that feeling, that comfort of doing that grew the more I played Garden Galaxy. And I think that maybe that's not like a main intent of the game, but it was central to the experience for me in the first like 4 hours of the game. And then I just had a different experience after that point. I knew that I could get rid of items, sell them to get coins toward new items that maybe I'll like more. And so I like that this game sort of taught me that lesson. And again, like who would think that that would happen in Garden Galaxy? I don't know. Just so that's why it's in my list.
We'll see if that carries over into other games for you.
Yeah,
But,
we'll see.
I won't hold my breath on that quite yet.
I don't think it depends on the game, I
Yeah.
think.
My next one is in Sea of Stars, and it's literally crossing the Sea of Stars.
Oh.
First of all, it stands out compared to the rest of the game, visually
Oh,
speaking.
yeah, we didn't even really talk
We
about
didn't talk
this.
about that. Well, it's hard because, like, some would consider it a spoiler. I kinda do. So I don't really wanna, like, ruin that moment for anybody, but it was a huge surprise. But then what we see on the other side of the Sea of Stars also really surprised me, and I was frankly quite happy to have found what I found on the other side of the Sea of Stars, because we had just come from a world that I was starting to get a little bit fatigued by. We had just dealt with pirates, we had just dealt with some eldritch kind of monster, and we had been in castles and, crypts or whatever. So I'm start all these like events are starting to bleed together in my mind because I
Mhm.
have that not quite medieval, but medieval
You're
fatigue.
starting to get numb to sort of like the medieval-ish
Yeah.
fantasy at this point.
And
It's
I'm
like, yeah,
I'm just thinking about it right now. Like I couldn't keep track of like what order which moments happened in. Like I don't know when we visited this in relation to when we visited
sure. You
this.
could not rebuild the timeline in your mind.
But
I couldn't either. Yeah.
but when I cross the Sea of Stars, everything that happens after that, I've got a pretty clear timeline. So it really did like turn the game around for me at just the right moment when I was just starting to be like, okay, I just kind of want this game to be done. And it happened at just the right time. So perfect timing for the Sea of Stars.
I agree. Sea of Stars roars back to life when that happens. Not that it like becomes an awful experience or anything, but you kind of get into this.
You go to the next island and then you
Yeah,
solve a problem
it's a
for
loop
somebody
kind
there
of.
and it
Yeah.
leads you to a boss.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It feels a little routine every time you do that. And then that happens. And it's like, this game just came back to life. It's now like a spectacular journey again. My next surprise is playing as the drone for so long and loving it in Axiom Verge 2. Axiom Verge 2 is far from my favorite game of the season, but man, when you turn into the drone in this game and you find all the powers and you start traversing so effectively, it changes the DNA of platforming in a way you didn't expect. And even though we're stuck as the drone for so long in this game, and we won't say for story reasons like why we're doing this, but even though you're doing that, and it seems like on paper that would be super jarring and such a swerve, it's actually the part of the game that I love the most.
My biggest surprise is also that specific moment where we take control of the drone for so long.
So cool.
Wasn't expecting that to happen. Very surprising moment, and then it just resulted in the most enjoyable part of the game anyway. So I'll take it, and that is my number one most surprising moment.
And Thomas Happ, I would take a whole game where we play as the drone that's in a Metroidvania that's smaller, maybe set in the breach. Just saying. Just saying.
Specifically, the Axiom Verge 2 drone, because
Yes.
the Axiom Verge 1 drone is different.
Absolutely. Yes, let me be clear with that. My last surprise is from Sea of Stars. And I thought that the sort of second half surprise, the crossing the Sea of Stars thing, the world we go to in there was a huge surprise. But the one I keep thinking back to from the game is the reveal with the archivist.
Hmm.
This person who frames the story. I think they're like the first person we meet
Yep.
in this game. They start telling us a story and then they come into the story in a way that made my jaw drop that I God, I'm getting goosebumps
Again.
again. I'm just thinking about this is giving me goosebumps. So I won't say more, but that's why it's in my list.
All right, fair enough. Okay. Next, we have, in addition to some of the biggest surprises, just some of our favorite moments. They didn't have to be surprising,
Yeah.
just something that we loved. And again, this is another one that is a pick up to 5. I picked up to 5. I imagine you did as well.
I did pick 5.
So why don't you go first this time?
My first favorite moment from the season, again, I'm going just chronologically with when we played the games. My first favorite moment is playing co-op Castle Crashers Remastered with Grant and takebacks.
Hey, that's so nice.
Even though I don't love this game, I loved the experience of playing with friends. That's really as simple as it can get.
Cool. For me, up first, one of my favorite moments is anytime I finish translating a language in Chants of Sonar. That's such a satisfying
Yeah.
payoff. So my favorite moment from this game is actually like 4 or 5 moments from this game.
Sure.
I loved it. I loved it.
Yeah, that when it says like 100% of this language completed and the little aura thing shows up around your character. It's so cool.
Yeah.
Yes. Also, just quick side note, I love when you solve a puzzle in Chants of Sonar, that sound effect that happens, that sound cue, the
Oh, yeah.
I love that.
Yeah, it's very
dude.
cool.
I love that so much. My next favorite moment is we've already mentioned this already. It's the name of a song on the soundtrack, apparently. Going from green into green
That's a
in
good
Cocoon.
moment. Yeah.
Holy crappers. That you're in a green world at one point, which is held within a green orb. And then this game does this magic trick where you take that green orb and it sets up this scenario where you go back into the green world, but you're still holding the green orb.
Right.
You're green. You brought green into green.
It doesn't make sense, but somehow it works.
I have no idea how it works, and I'm amazed by it.
Yeah, that's a pretty cool moment. I kind of wish I would have remembered to put that on my list, but spoilers, it's not on my list. My next one is after crossing Sea of Stars, playing in Sarai's zones for the first time is what I'll say. Like she has zones that are very specific to her, and I really loved the enemy designs in those zones. I loved the design of those zones. I loved solving the puzzles in most of those zones. Yeah, it was just a great turnaround for me. And also, I think Sarai is probably my favorite character in that game, at least to play as, and has my favorite design.
When I got to that section, I just kept thinking over and over and over again, oh, Disco loves this.
Disco's so into this.
I know that Disco loves this.
Poison Knife Lady, he's down.
Yeah, and just like where we are, what we're fighting.
Yep.
Yes. My next favorite moment is the final pizza time in Pizza Tower. In Pizza Tower, at the end of every level, you do what's called a pizza time. After you get to the end of the level, you have to race back to the start. And sometimes the route is different, but there's a timer. And then you're graded. And so it's this energetic moment where you're racing. And I honestly got a little tired of that music throughout it stressed me out.
Yeah.
And that's great. It's always like thrilling. It's always exhilarating. The end of the game, Disco, has a pizza time it's a pizza time for all pizza times, right? It is what is it, 5 minutes, 7 minutes? It's something.
It's pretty long.
It's significantly longer than the other pizza times. And not only is it longer, but it incorporates, I think, every idea, if not a vast majority of ideas
pretty close,
from the game leading up to that point. And
there's no small amount of ideas in this game. You do a lot of different wild stuff.
Exactly. So then within this pizza time at the end of the game, every 5 seconds you're doing something different. And I think they spaced everything out super well. Everything feels just perfectly tuned. I think they paid a lot of attention to the choreography of this pizza time because it was my favorite feeling one, even though it was super long. And by the time I got to the end, I was like still kind of stressing about whether I was going to make it through, but I never got stuck at any part for super long. So it's just tuned super well. Love the last pizza time.
Perfect. I love seeing that pizza time is coming as we're going throughout the game.
And I think maybe that's why it made my list as favorite moments, not favorite surprises, because you did point that out in our review that the game is dropping those hints of like blocks in all the different areas of the tower. So I like that we're getting hinted at with that.
So yeah, it feels like a payoff for,
it does.
For paying attention.
Uh-huh.
My next favorite moment is, I guess, like a series of moments. It's a favorite task, and that's going to camp and getting to know all of my new friends in Ghost Song. I think, If you listen closely to that episode, you can see how much it affected me, and that's still true. And I think about them all the time, especially whenever I'm playing the music from Ghost Song. So, still changed my DNA. That's it. That's that.
My next favorite moment is just solving a deduction with my wife in Duck Detective, The Secret Salami. I'm not always the best at like figuring out motives and investigations. Sometimes it takes me a little bit longer to gather all the clues and to really absorb them. But when you play this game with somebody else, you can each notice different clues and different details. And I just remember moments where we were stuck on a deduction. You play as a duck detective, so
Mhm.
everything in this game is about deductions. And we would just get stuck and we wouldn't be able to figure out how the clues tied together. And then one instance of having an aha moment is going into our journal, another great journal in this game, by the way, and looking at the evidence list and noticing like a similarity between some of the pieces of evidence and that cluing us into the solution. And that was another thrilling moment. So it was really cool to just be able to do that with somebody. And she noticed things I didn't notice. I noticed things she didn't notice. It was a really cool, unofficial co-op,
Mhm.
mode,
Yeah.
if you will.
Perfect. My next one is having our very good friends Egg, a specific Egg, and Cater Blossom as guests on Underplayed.
Oh,
I've been looking forward to getting them on the show somehow, even before we kind of decided to do guests episodes. So I've been looking for an excuse to have them on the show for a long time. And the way we do guests, unfortunately, I don't know when or if we'll have them back. But if we ever did repeat guests, I would love to have them back someday. We probably couldn't do that to them every season because they also run an indie game podcast where they play a lot of indie games and
right,
run out of time just the way we do.
right.
So,
And also check out nosmallgames.com if you want to check out their podcasts. That's the easiest way to share it with people. I love that, and I echo what you say there. My next one is the alchemist level in Chants of Sonar. So specifically in Chants of Sonar, it is the fourth area of the game. It follows what I think is the hardest area of the game, the one that I got
right.
stuck on the most. I'm going into the alchemist area then thinking, oh gosh, is the game going to just get harder and harder? Am I going to need to look up a guide for this area? And just with who I am as someone who enjoys mathematical puzzles and the way this level is laid out so clearly with maps and things, I found it to be really easy for me to get into. And it was the kind of area of puzzles that fits my personality when it comes
Mhm.
to puzzle solving. So I had a great time. I also love how the alchemist symbols look. They just make sense to me. They use very clear like circles and lines that you can find patterns between. And I liked doing that too.
Cool, cool. I echo some of that. I did end up using a guide for that section for a couple of puzzles that I couldn't figure out. But I do like the way that it was laid out. It was the easiest one to navigate. I
Hmm.
never got lost.
And that's sometimes the thing that you want to just not worry about is how do I get to the places? I just want to get to the places and solve the puzzles there. I don't want an overarching puzzle to be like, okay, I'm lost. Where do I go? That's
Right.
frustrating.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Don't enjoy that. My last one, I'm picking from this game again. It's
that's fair.
crying in the final moments of Ghost Song and taking it all in while the credits roll and this just really beautiful music plays. It's a lot like when I beat Outer Wilds for the first time. It's just that really
Wow.
special moment, and the music affects you in a way just on top of what's already happening in the story. And it filled my eyes with tears. I don't know if it's a moment that I can get back again, but it changed me forever. So,
Wow.
um,
Changed your DNA.
changed my DNA. That's why it's on the list.
That's great. All right. Those were our favorite moments. And now it's time for a similar category, our favorite characters. This is selecting from all the games we played this season. We're picking some characters who are special to us. DiscoCola, which character is first in your list of favorite characters?
So, first in my list is actually two characters, so I'm cheating right out of the gate. It's Jen and Tristan from Young Souls. I think that these kids are obnoxious. They're teenagers that, have been through some stuff, so of course they've got a chip on their shoulder a lot. But they're also really compassionate in really important moments and recognize the faults in society and object to them. I think they've got good heads on their shoulders, and their character designs are just totally awesome.
That's awesome. I want to look up gameplay of this game just to like see these two in action more. I've just really seen the trailer that you shared with me, and then also just a few screenshots, and that's it. So I
Mm.
want to see more. My first character in my list is Trevor from American Arcadia.
Ooh,
This is
boring guys unite. Yes.
Trevor is trying to escape from this city called Arcadia. His whole life has been a lie, and he is just this average dude who has this routine life. He has a boring job that he goes to every day and comes home and he watches TV, he passes out, he wakes up the next morning, he does it all again. And then his life is turned upside down when Angela, someone who's more behind the scenes in this whole operation, she figures out that something bad is happening to the people who are not performing so well on this reality TV show. And he's like, "Oh wait, I'm on a reality TV show?" And it just changes his perspective and he starts to escape from this city with the help of Angela. And in the process of doing that, you just get to see this normal guy put into an extraordinary situation, kind of a fish out of water. And the just the dynamic between Trevor and Angela is so great because she's so capable and plucky and smart and intuitive, and he fumbles around. He
He is not those things.
right. And I could actually say Trevor and Angela as like two here, just like you just did. I could actually probably, have both of them here. But one thing I don't think I expressed enough in the original review is just how goofy Trevor is. I think I gave an example of it, but sometimes he is being chased by security personnel and he has to jump off of a building. And this is a 28-year-old guy who looks like he's 40. And he'll jump off of a roof and he'll just be like, "Ah!" He's so goofy. And so he makes me laugh a lot. That's why he's in my list.
Okay, my next one is multiple people again. Everyone at camp from Ghost Song. I don't know that I could pick one. There are like two or three that I love the most, but I don't think I love one more than any other
Mm,
one. So
sure.
I'm just going to say the camp
The camp.
from Ghost Song.
That's fair. My next one is it was hard to pick from Pizza Tower of all games, but I'm picking The Noise.
Okay.
But I could have picked Brick and Gustavo. Is that what they're
Yeah.
called? But I'm going with The Noise just because that's a character I think back to a lot for how it's a take on the Noid character
Yeah.
from back in the day. And I just find that The Noise is cracking me up every time I think about him.
Cool. My next one's also from Pizza Tower. I picked Peppino.
Oh, amazing.
Just
Cool.
because I love all of his wild sounds and all of his wild expressions that he gives
Yeah.
us. I think also at the same time, this is an example of how few characters just in general are kind of in our games this season.
Mhm.
Like we played a lot of games that are sort of like disembodied in a way. I don't know. It's hard to explain, but like Cocoon, you're not picking a character from Cocoon because there's no like character writing.
Right.
So Peppino is a weird pick because he's kind of barely a character, but it is who I picked.
No, he is anxiety, like to a
Incarnate,
T.
yeah.
Incarnate. He is just like an entire emotion to the nth degree.
Mhm.
It is very well done. My next character is Eugene McQuacklin from Duck Detective: The Secret Salami. You talk to so many interesting characters in this game, but I'm just going with the Duck Detective himself. I love that this is a noir sort of story. It's set in a very modern place, but just he takes things so seriously. His wife recently left him, and he is addicted to bread, and he's just kind of, sad and wallowing until he gets this case, and then he's on the case, and he just has that personality that you would expect. Like, he walks into a room and, he says stuff like, I could already tell she was a tough one. It's just listening to that is so fun in Duck Detective.
Fair enough. My next one is Sarai from Sea of Stars.
Hell yeah.
A lot of this has to do with like design and combat style, because if I thought about it, I think my favorite actual like person who has my favorite personality from Sea of Stars is actually probably Garl. But I think Sarai is great. I love her character design. I love her story twists. I love her
plural twists.
Yes,
Yes.
multiple twists, but I really, really love her combat style. And I love what her inclusion in our party does to the game. Whenever I could, I had Sarai on my front lines, fighting in every combat that I could.
Yeah, all of her powers feel super good. The venom flurry, the backstabs.
So
when you
love it.
time the backstabs to get a critical, it just feels right. It just
Yeah.
feels like, oh yeah, I should be doing this.
Yeah.
It's so cool. My next character is Kate from Viewfinder.
Kate. Justice for Kate.
Yeah, justice for Kate. Kate is the emotional core of this game for me. Kate is an AI cat that you can pet, and they're pleasant.
Yeah.
I could stop there, but Kate also asks us questions about who we are and the world we're from. They're very curious. It's the kind of curiosity that is refreshing to see in a first-person puzzle game where you're like running around doing perspective stuff and taking pictures and looking at the world differently. There's this cat that's keeping you company. And I think that's part of what made me want to play the game a couple times and, get all the trophies, is just having those conversations. And then the moments at the end are very emotional with Kate. I think this game ends quite strong emotionally, and I think it's because of this character.
I could have put Kate on there. Maybe you should have, instead of, maybe Peppino or something. My last one, doubling down, Ghost Song, Blue
Wow, nice.
from Ghost Song.
Who you play as.
Yep. We wake up as Dead Suit. We don't know who we are. I think it's pretty clear to us that we're non-human, but we're going throughout this game, no memory, no recollection, no goal, no interests. We're just surviving. And then we get to watch Blue become herself as a result of the people that she encounters. And it creates this really affecting story, and it shows a machine tending toward love and compassion. And it's so powerful the way that it's handled, and it's so powerful the way that she's voice acted. And it just makes that ending so much more strong. It really lifts that ending up to a higher level, because we start with no desires. We just exist, and then we begin to become ourselves throughout playing the game. And it's so incredible to do that and just have all of the characters voice acted so well.
That's beautiful. You're making me want to play that. Maybe that should be my Jealous game.
Change your Jealous game.
Yeah. I did think about it.
I know,
But that was lovely to hear about. My last character in my list is Garl from Sea of Stars.
Well, I'm glad he's on the list somewhere.
He's somewhere, yeah. So Garl is part of this trio of friends in Sea of Stars. There's Zale, there's Valere. I'm still unsure of how to say her name. And there's Garl. And Garl is the one who's a non-magical person. He is their human friend.
Mm-hmm.
And he puts himself in front of his friends to protect them. When they're kids, he throws himself in front of an attack to save his friend, and he loses his eye.
Yeah.
And that right there shows his character. But then he's just someone I look up to, even though he's not magical, even though he can't do all these crazy magical powers. He is able to do combo moves with magical characters, and he has a special story moment with a big character, I'll say. I'm trying to be careful about how I say it. But at the end of the day, he is just a person like you or me. and he is being the best that he can be.
Mhm.
And that's someone I look up to.
Yeah, I agree. He's like self-sacrifice is at the core of like who he is. Like if this was the movie Inside Out, that would be one of his islands is just self-sacrifice. And
Totally.
I love people who try to always think of others before themselves.
Yeah, it's refreshing to see in just in any media. So yeah, those are all of our favorite characters. Very good lists.
Yep. Up next, we're back to our pick ones. This is favorite storytelling. So, selecting from all the games we played, we each pick a game with writing or narrative that sticks with us the most. Do you want to go first this time?
I can go first.
'Kay.
This is where I'm going to put a special spotlight on American Arcadia.
Oh, perfect.
Wanted to really give this one attention here because this world of Arcadia and this world that Out of the Blue Games built is so confidently done, and there's a ton of backstory. And now, if you listen to my review from the episode that this was on, it was episode 3 of the 6th season. I did criticize the story in a few places. Some stuff at the end is weird. There's also some backstory for some of the more minor characters that isn't really paid off. But everything else I think is really good. There's backstory that helps give you a frame of reference for things, and it informs how you take in details later in the game. The characters themselves have great conversations. There's a presentation in here where characters will be interviewed, sort of like breaking the fourth wall style, like they're
Mhm.
in a documentary for a moment and they're talking about what happened. And then you zoom back to that moment and you're doing what they're explaining. And that visual of seeing them sitting down for an interview, it's interesting, it's unlike other things, but what it also does is thematically reinforce some of the ideas of this game, like how you might put on a show for others, whether you know it or not, how you show up in the world. These themes are kind of represented in the style that the story is told. So again, I'm kind of being vague, but that's really cool, I think. And I just think that it's very ambitious with how it tells its story and the story itself.
Yeah. For mine, this was probably the hardest one to pick this season because there's a lot of games that have really strong narrative and some that do it in like really unconventional ways. Like Far Lone Sales tells a really strong narrative without putting any words on the screen, hardly any words. Young Souls has a strong narrative. Blasphemous kind of does too.
Yeah,
Viewfinder,
totally.
um, and then like Sea of Stars was hard to not pick,
Yeah, I thought about several of those games. Yeah.
but the one I picked was Ghost Song.
Wow. Okay. Cool. Nice.
I've said it all already, so I'll keep it short. But just the way these characters affect you throughout the game, it makes you feel like everybody matters,
Yeah.
even in hopeless and helpless situations.
Wow.
So
Yep. Makes sense. And then we'll go to our favorite visuals. This is where we just pick a game with the graphics and visual style we love the most. I had a tough time with this category, dude.
interesting. Okay.
I was between like 3 or 4 games here, but I'm going to go to you first. What is your favorite visuals?
There are a lot of great visuals this season, but for me, it was really between Curse Crackers, but then the one I ultimately picked was Sea of Stars. It's no secret. I've talked about how much I love pixel art before in this podcast dozens of times. That's still true. And Sea of Stars is like more in the 16-bit vein, and it does the 16-bit stuff really, really well. So Sea of Stars was a mostly pretty easy pick for me.
I'm going to say Sea of Stars as well. This is where I landed after thinking about it for a bit. For all the reasons you said, it's just beautiful. It's some of the best pixel art I've seen, maybe ever. Like it's just 16-bit graphics done in the most professional way, in the most detailed way. Love it. Love every
Perfect.
area. And just the set decoration, the set design of all the areas, just the
Mhm.
attention to detail there is staggering.
Yeah, I loved like being in the Clockwork Castle. I didn't love fighting all the enemies that were there, but just like while we're in there, the whole place just looks awesome.
Yeah, and like if you think about like the port town of, is it called the port town of Brisk?
Yeah, I think so.
Just how much
There's
stuff is
so
there?
much there,
Yes,
yeah.
yeah, and
And like
there's character to all of it.
very few repeated elements,
I know.
if any. It's
Yeah,
crazy.
it is very impressive.
All right, so This is one of my favorite ones each season. It's favorite soundscape. So from all the games we played, we pick a game with favorite sound. That could be music and or sound design and or voiceover performance. I do want to shout out 2 games that really excelled in sound effects. I did not ultimately pick them, but Amochapon and Sea of Stars just have really
Yeah,
great sound effects,
for
offer
sure.
a lot of great feedback. My pick this time is based entirely on music. This is probably my second favorite video game soundtrack now, maybe just under Machinarium.
Can I guess what it
You
is?
can guess what it is.
Blasphemous?
It's Ghost Song.
Oh, it's Ghost Song. Okay,
Yeah.
wow.
I have been listening to the Ghost Song soundtrack like nonstop for months.
Wow, I need to listen to that.
Grant Graham is an amazing musician. I don't know any of his other work, but he knocked it out of the park. I think it's beautiful. I think it's haunting. I think it sounds good all the time. And I play it whenever I'm cooking dinner. I play it whenever I don't want to listen to the music in the game I'm actually playing. I play it at work when I need to focus. I love this soundtrack.
Oh, wow, dude. That's so exciting. I love that for you. God, I need to play Ghost Song, I
What-
guess. I was aware of it before you played it. I just never got around to it. And
Yeah, it's really pretty. I think you would love the music. Maybe just check out the music first.
I will do that. I
But,
will do that. I'll pull a DiscoCola
Yeah.
and I'll look up the soundtrack first.
but what's your pick? It's your turn.
I had to let me look back.
Just real quick, make sure you didn't make a mistake.
Yeah, this is another really difficult pick for me. I'm looking back at the secret games. I'm looking back at the featured games, and I'm feeling some other ones calling my name, but the one that is in my gut, in my heart, is Dredge.
Wow.
And I'm leaning on the soundscape. I'm not just leaning
Yeah.
on the soundtrack. Love the soundtrack in here. I've looked up behind the scenes stuff behind the music, so maybe that has a sway here. But if you think about all the sound effects too, just how those draw you into the world.
I love dredging. in
Dredging is
Dredge.
great.
It
Yeah,
sounds so good.
I wouldn't even be able to recreate it with my voice. But how the fishing sounds, even just shifting things around in your inventory has a great sense of like just thickness, I guess.
Yeah.
The sound effects are unreal in this game.
When you were
so-
talking about catching all the fish, I was in my head that little jingle that plays when you catch
yes,
an aberration.
Broom, ding,
Yeah, I
ding,
love that.
ding.
That little stinger.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah, that still like gives me the willies a little
Yeah.
bit when I hear that. And I was like up really late last night catching all of the DLC aberrations. I've caught hundreds of aberrations and it's still giving me that feeling.
Yeah.
So
love that.
yeah,
I love that for
Dredge
you.
is my pick. So yeah, that is our season 6 recap and reflection. Awesome job, Disco.
Awesome job to you, Bopo. Congratulations on playing 20 plus games in the last few months.
Yes, same to you. Very good job. And it's always a pleasure to do this with you. Very happy that we're going to continue by going into season 7 in early 2025. And now it is time to move on to our next part, which is planning season 7's featured game lineup.
Yeah, what's gonna happen next in the show? What's gonna happen next in the show? What's gonna happen? What's gonna happen next in the what's gonna happen? What's gonna happen next in the show?
So this will be a slightly messy and informal process.
But usually goes a little bit quicker.
Yeah. It's the shorter of the two main segments of this episode for sure. But we have a list of vetted indie games to feature in the future, and each of us needs to pick a handful of featured games to review next season. So we need a total of 10. And we've each come prepared with picks we want, but we don't know each other's lists.
It's kind of like Secret Games.
Kind of.
I'm not holding my picks in a vault or anything. Like if Bopo found out a couple of my picks early, I wouldn't be upset.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's not like it has to be secret. It's just how it is. And for any guests we have planned for next season,
And we have guests.
We do have guests. We have already picked games to review with them privately by this point, and we will share about those momentarily. And when we pick these games, we want to aim for diversity when it comes to game length and genre and personality. And to the best of our ability, we're going to create an order that favors variety from one episode to the next. So, for instance, we don't want 3 Metroidvanias in a row,
Yeah,
right?
boring. Because especially when you have DiscoCola who synergizes, it would be like 6
Oh, yeah,
Metroidvanias
then
in a row.
he would be playing a Metroidvania for every episode. Yes, it'd be a lot. And then also we need at least one featured game next season to be co-op. And we take turns picking the co-op game season to season. It is my turn to pick the co-op game. And we will stream whatever co-op game I pick together on our Twitch channel at twitch.tv/underplayed podcast.
To the best of our ability.
To the best of our-
If there's for some reason we can't, we'll, I don't know, figure something out.
Yeah, we'll do our best. And as we go, we will share a little bit about what we already know about each game, maybe read a little bit about the games on the Steam storefront. Any and all decisions made here are subject to change between seasons, depending on unforeseen circumstances. And if you would like to come along with us on our journey of featured games next season, be sure to follow us on all podcast platforms. You can follow us on our personal Twitch channels. Disco's at twitch.tv/DiscoCola. I'm at twitch.tv/BO__PO. And you can feel welcome to play any of these games that you have access to, and you can share your thoughts with us as we go, maybe on social media.
Yeah.
We'd love to hear from more like just audience members about that stuff.
Yeah, some of our biggest fans have found us because they played Axiom Verge when we played Axiom Verge. And
Yes. Yes. So that can be how we make new friends, and we would love to hear about your thoughts on them as we go too. So just keep that in mind as we're picking these games. If you already have these games or you're wanting to play these games in the future yourself, maybe like consider playing them too as we're playing them. And then we do have some guests for next season. We'll talk about the guest picks first, I think.
I
Does
think
that sound
that's
good?
the best way
Okay.
based on how it's working out this season.
Okay, so I want to intro each of these one at a time.
If you don't mind, I'll take the first
I was going to
one.
ask if you could.
Yeah.
Yes.
Um,
So this is our first game and our guest, and a little bit about our guest and that game.
Yeah. So up first, we will be doing an episode with Jeremy from Moonsoul Games, and he developed Grand Soul Story, which, to give you a little backstory, he had gifted it to us, and it was planned to be a secret game in our previous episode, but due to some technical issues, couldn't get it done in time. So, spoiler alert for an episode in season 7, we will be playing Grand Soul Story as one of the secret games in that season. Which episode it is, we don't know yet.
We don't know yet. I
But-
don't know.
But
Yeah.
we will be
Who
featuring
knows?
his game at some point in the secret game section, and we will feature him in the featured game section when we play Animal Well.
Yes, which is a game that came out in 2024. This is a Metroidvania developed by Billy Basso. And if we go to Steam, the game synopsis says, explore a dense, interconnected labyrinth and unravel its many secrets. Collect items to manipulate your environment in surprising and meaningful ways. Encounter beautiful and unsettling creatures as you attempt to survive what lurks in the dark. There is more than what you see. And this is what Jeremy picked. So we're going to review Animal Well alongside Jeremy. It'll be very, very interesting to have a developer's perspective on this very thick game that I have played.
You've already played it.
I've already played through Animal Well. I don't have the platinum yet. I need to do a lot of the collection stuff, but I plan on replaying it.
Yep.
I plan on getting all the miscellaneous stuff done, and I will spare a lot of my thoughts on it right now, but I have very strong feelings about Animal Well, and I'll just leave it
Gee,
at
I
that.
wonder what they are.
Yeah. So I cannot wait to talk about this.
I'm excited. I've already ordered my physical copy.
Oh, awesome. On
it's,
what platform?
PS5.
Cool.
There's no guarantee it'll get here before the recording date. I'm crossing my fingers, but yeah, looking forward to this one as well.
Sweet. Okay, I'll share about the next one. The next guest for next season is another developer. It is Noah from Some Humble Onion. the developer of Smushy Come Home. This is a previous secret game from season 4, I think. My last secret game from season 4, I want to say. And Noah is going to talk to us a little bit about his time developing Smushy. We'll maybe talk about the free content update that released not too long ago here in 2024. And we're also going to review the game that Noah picked from our list. And it might be a surprise to some of you. You might be thinking like maybe Noah picked some kind of a 3D open world game. Maybe it's more of a cozy game. But he picked a side-scrolling action game called Katana Zero.
Yeah, that is not the same thing as Smushy Come Home.
The game synopsis on Steam says Katana Zero is a stylish neo-noir action platformer featuring breakneck action and instant death combat, slash dash and manipulate time to unravel your past in a beautifully brutal acrobatic display. Noah let us know that he loves this game already, so he's going to be very passionate about it. He's going to replay it. He's going to be very fresh on it. But again, it'll be fascinating to get his thoughts on it. I think it'll be like extra fascinating getting his thoughts on it as someone who like made such a different kind of game, so we'll ask him about that and like why he picked it. It'll be super cool.
I also just ordered my physical copy of Smushy Come Home. So that should be here pretty soon too. And it was what probably should have been my jealous game for that season if it wasn't already. But I intend to play it before we do that recording, mostly cool. Because I just want to play it.
Yeah, it's a very good game. I think you'll have so much fun. And I intend on bringing my Smushy plushie to the recording as well. It'll be looking over our shoulder as we talk to Noah.
Lovely.
Okay, who's our next guest?
So we have 3 guests. Generally, we stick to 2, but this was an opportunity that came up, and we decided to just go with it. And in the end, I'm kind of glad that we did because of the game they picked. But we'll be talking with Oscar from Triband, and Triband developed What the Golf, What the Bat, and What the Car.
What the Car.
So I think this is a result of you streaming What the Car, and that's sort of how the ball got rolling.
So the community manager, during Next Fest's June edition for this year, I was trying out What the Car, which as we sit down to record is going to release in the next few weeks. By the time this episode is out, I think it will be out already. I was trying out What the Car, had heard of What the Golf and What the Bat, but had never played those, but was having a great time. And the community manager from Triband came into my chat and just kept me and my chat company and was just really nice. And then we got to messaging after that. I told him about the podcast, and eventually we got onto the topic of, hey, would you like to be a guest? And they reached out to the development team, the designers on the games, and Oscar agreed to step up. So that's super cool.
Yeah. And we'll be playing Untitled Goose Game with Oscar.
Yes.
And I'm super excited for that. Untitled Goose Game is one that I would have loved to have covered a number of times, but it's also a game that both of us have played. I think both of us have played more than once.
I've played it once, but I've gotten 100% in it.
Gotcha. So whenever we have those games that we've like already digested the full course, it's hard to go back to them and talk to them fresh.
Yeah, it's kind of like what we did with Donut County.
Exactly.
We needed a new sort of format. We needed a guest for that one. So we talked to Jack Rodenberg.
And I'm really glad that they ended up picking, coincidentally, Untitled Goose Game, which is a game that I've been was thinking about last week. I was like, I'd really love if we could cover Untitled Goose Game.
Yeah. And they looked at our big list and they actually picked a handful of games that they said were inspirations for their studio. Untitled Goose Game was just one of them. There were several more lighthearted, comical, goofier games that they also picked. And so this could have been in a couple other games, but we went with Untitled Goose Game for the reasons Disco just explained.
Thank goodness.
Okay, so those are our 3 guests, Jeremy from Moonsoul Games, Noah from Some Humble Onion, and Oscar from Triband. And we already have Animal Well, Katana Zero, and Untitled Goose Game on the list. So we talked a little bit in advance. I agreed that I would take 2 of the spots from my usual 5, here. So I guess if we only had 2 guests, we'd each get 4. I'm going to pick 3 now.
Okay.
And we'll go back and forth, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So if I'm picking 4, I should probably start.
You should start, I
Okay.
think. Yeah. What's your first pick?
I have How Long to Beat open because that's the main sticking point for most games for me.
Sorry, real quick. I didn't read the game synopsis from the Steam storefront for Untitled Goose Game, but it's a lovely morning in the village and you are a horrible goose. That's all it is.
That's valid.
Yeah, it
a
is.
valid description.
Can confirm.
Up first, I'm going to pick a game that is maybe a little bit longer than I would like, but not by a lot. And it's a game I've had the physical for a while. I've wanted to play it. I would like to play Inscription.
Amazing, dude. I'm so excited. Yes. Okay, let's do it. I have no problems with that. We don't have many horror games on our huge list. Inscription is one of them, but of all the ones on there, it's the one that I would be like super energized to just start playing next week or tomorrow, today.
Yeah.
Even.
Yeah.
Neither of us have played it, but we have many friends who love it. The game synopsis from Steam says Inscription is an inky black card-based odyssey that blends the deck-building roguelike, escape room-style puzzles, and psychological horror into a blood-laced smoothie. Darker still are the secrets inscribed upon the cards.
Ooh,
yeah, I have
spooky.
more goosebumps are happening.
I'm really looking forward to playing more deck builders because I'm finding that's one of my favorite genres.
Yeah, I want to get into more of them with you for sure. Since I'm picking the co-op game this season, I can pick that next.
Sure, let's do it.
And for the longest time, I wanted to play a certain game that was longer, significantly longer, I think, than what I'm going with.
Okay.
The game that I have down, and it's an unconventional co-op experience, but you can play it co-op. It's in our co-op list, is Octodad Dadliest Catch.
Ooh, okay.
The Steam description says, Octodad Dadliest Catch is a game about destruction, deception, and fatherhood. The player controls Octodad, a dapper octopus masquerading as a human, as he goes about his life. Octodad's existence is a constant struggle as he must master mundane tasks with his unwieldy, boneless tentacle.
Oh, wait, co-op is in controlling his different limbs.
Exactly.
Oh, God.
One of the reasons why I wanted to pick this is because it's such a swerve from other co-op games we've played where we will be cooperating, but in a much different way. At a core level, it is us cooperating when it comes to controls.
Oh, Jesus.
And just what inputs we want to make. So we'll see how it goes. But in this co-op mode in this game, one of us controls 2 limbs, the other controls 2 limbs. So
oof.
We'll see.
We'll see.
We'll have fun. I hope it's fun.
We'll have hopefully fun.
Yeah. I'll try not to get frustrated. I might, honestly, I might get the most frustrated at myself.
Well,
because
yeah.
games like QWOP and stuff, I just have never clicked with.
I want to play I Am Bread. I would love to play that,
yes.
but it's just
that would be good synergy.
Ooh.
That'd be good synergy with this episode. I'm just saying.
Yeah,
but
that's true.
That's my pick for the co-op game for the season.
Alrighty. Okay. I'm going to pick an action game.
Okay.
But it's between 2. I want to finally play Another Crab's Treasure.
Oh, okay.
It's a little bit longer than I want, but my other pick is even longer than that. So
okay.
We're going nautical this season,
we
folks.
And we're just going with a theme of animals. We got Animal Well, Goose Game, Octodad, and Another Crab's Treasure. So maybe no more animal games, but we'll see. Okay, that's your pick then. For Another Crab's Treasure on Steam, it says, in a vibrant undersea kingdom on the verge of collapse, a hermit crab embarks on a treasure hunt to buy back his repossessed shell. The second game from Aggro Crab.
The first being Going Under,
yes,
which we also reviewed
which
on this.
You've played a lot. Also, I didn't mention this, but Octodad is from Young Horses, who developed Bug Snacks.
Oh, is that right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if
it's their game before
I think I had heard that, but
yeah,
totally
I always
forgot.
forget that.
Yeah.
Because I was on the Steam page a second ago, and I was like, oh yeah, Young Horses. I forgot. Okay, My next game is more in the simulation side of things.
Okay.
So not a genre we jump to all the time, but simulation is quite a wide open spectrum of games. It's like the most diverse kind of, because it's just kind of the category where things go that we're not sure where they
Yeah.
should go otherwise.
I have a guess.
Okay.
I'll-
Should I say it and then you
Yeah.
can say whether you were right?
Yeah.
Okay. My pick is Papers, Please.
Oh, that wasn't my guess.
So this is an earlier game from Lucas Pope. This is from like over a decade ago,
Mhm.
and it's a very well-known political puzzle simulation game. And on Steam, it says, "Congratulations, the October Labor Lottery is complete. Your name was pulled. For immediate placement, report to the Ministry of Admission at Greston Border Checkpoint. An apartment will be provided for you and your family in East Greston. Expect a Class 8 dwelling." That's all it says. Yeah, Lucas Pope developed Return of the Obra Dinn, which we reviewed several seasons ago now. And I'm excited to go back in time a little bit.
Yeah.
So we just had another Crab's Treasure. That's from like this year. Now we're going back over a decade.
I almost put Papers, Please on my list as well.
Okay. What? So you weren't right with your guess. Do you want
No.
to share what you thought it was?
I thought it was like Golf with Friends or whatever.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's in our co-op list.
Oh,
Yeah.
my bad. All right. So what are we in need for as far as genre right now? We're not like doubling up too much quite yet, it seems.
So we have action covered really well because we've got another Crab's Treasure and Katana Zero. We've got a Metroidvania in Animal Well. I forget what Untitled Goose Game is. Maybe it's just like an adventure in our list.
Yeah.
We've got our co-op game. Papers, Please is a simulation. So like we don't have a platformer, not that we need one. Adventure is a lengthy list. We could always take on more adventures. I'm not saying whether my next game is any of these. I'm just saying.
Right.
Oh, roguelike is
Mm.
an RPG, and puzzle are other genres not represented here.
Okay. Okay. So my next one is short. It is an adventure. I believe also puzzle. One that we approved relatively recently. I'm not super passionate about playing it, but
Oh,
it's something I've been wanting to try. It feels like it's borderline quintessential, I think.
Yeah.
And it's called One Shot.
yes, and you're right. We did recently approve this one, and I didn't really know it before you suggested it, which was super exciting for me. But tens of thousands of people have reviewed this. It has an overwhelmingly positive review average on Steam. And on Steam, it says One Shot is a surreal top-down puzzle adventure game with unique gameplay capabilities. You are to guide a child through a mysterious world on a mission to restore its long-dead son. The world knows you exist.
All
A
right.
lot of these descriptions are just confusing me today. I have no idea.
You don't know what it's
I don't know
about.
any more than I knew a second ago. So cool. One Shot.
One Shot.
It's actually stylized as one word, but capital O and S.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. It is time for my final pick.
Alrighty.
For my final pick, I have another adventure that I'd like to
Okay.
pick. And it's more of like a narrative-focused game. So if we're feeling like we're too heavy there, I could swap out for something else.
Let's try it.
So let's see what happens. But my pick is Her Story.
Oh. I don't know if I remember what this is.
This is a choose your own adventure investigation game that features FMV footage.
Okay.
And it was developed and published by Sam Barlow, who went on to make another game from our list called Immortality. And I wanted to play this game before we got to Immortality because it's, Immortality is the follow-up. Not that it's a sequel, but just wanted to play the first game.
Okay.
So on Steam, it says, a woman is interviewed 7 times by the police. Search the video database and explore hundreds of authentic clips to discover her story in this groundbreaking and award-winning narrative game. So in this game, we're scrubbing through live action video to find clues and do this investigation. It's got a lot of tags on Steam that catch my eye, like visual novel, point and click, FMV, crime, detective, interactive fiction, exploration, choose your own adventure, all these things.
All of the things.
So what do you think of that? I'm extra curious about your reaction to this as like it not being immediately familiar to you.
I guess I'm kind of used to that. I do have this like innate reaction that I can't control when it comes to games that have FMV
Okay.
as
Is it
part of
negative?
it. Yeah, usually it doesn't feel right to me most of the time.
Okay.
I'm ready to try and get over that. It's not an intentional, feeling. I've never played one.
So in Dujana, did you not like anus or pie? Pie or anus?
I didn't love that part because
Yeah.
it felt mismatched.
Listeners who weren't expecting that are just caught off guard right now. They're like, what?
Anus?
What?
Anus in my podcast? It could happen to you.
We mentioned it last season.
Yeah, we
too,
did.
But yeah, okay. We'll give it a shot. And having your perspective as someone who is repulsed a little bit by that will
Yeah.
be interesting. Maybe you'll be pleasantly surprised.
I'd love to get over it. It's the only game I haven't played on my Annapurna collection is, what's it called? Telling Lies?
Telling Lies.
That's the only one I haven't played out of that collection.
Which is also on our featured game
it is,
list.
yeah.
Yeah.
And that's the reason why
That's
I
the
haven't even
reason.
turned it on.
Okay.
Okay.
So we're down to our last pick
We're down
already.
to the last one. Okay.
This has gone really fast.
Very fast. So you said we need puzzle.
Yeah.
Let
We,
me
well,
s-
we not that we need it, but we don't
We
have
don't have it.
puzzle. We don't have roguelike. We don't have RPG.
I'm gonna tell you right now, I didn't pick any roguelikes.
Okay. Wah, wah.
We could play that. This one's shorter, but I also know you don't love it.
That's fine. Say it. buddy.
Let's get puzzle on the list. Let's play Fez. This one
Fez. Okay.
is a quintessential one, and
It
I
is.
have not touched it.
Okay. I kind of like that. I think that's really cool. I think that would be interesting. It's another older one too. Kind of as old as like Papers, Please. Her Story is relatively old as well. So we're getting a good variety of like newer and older games.
Yeah, we had that this season as well with
We had-
like our Castle Crashers and our Meat Boy,
Yeah, and but then a lot of games though were from 2023
like
specifically.
Chance of Sonar and Sea of Stars.
Yes, and Viewfinder and Cocoon. Like it went on and on. So I like that we have more of a variety of years here. I like this.
Oh, Octodad's pretty old too. Yeah.
It is, yes. So that would leave us with Animal Well, Katana Zero, Untitled Goose Game, Inscription, Octodad, Another Crab's Treasure, Papers, Please, One Shot, Her Story, and Fez. Let me read Fez's description. I have started Fez. I started it back probably like 10 years ago, and I didn't get very far. I got stuck, and something else
Ooh.
distracted me, and
Dang
I
it.
just didn't go back.
You're like way smarter than I am too. That makes me nervous.
Not that I gave it a super strong try, though, but I have touched it before. Gomez is a 2D creature living in a 2D world, or is he? When the existence of a mysterious third dimension is revealed to him, Gomez is sent out on a journey that will take him to the very end of time and space. Use your ability to navigate 3D structures from 4 distinct classic 2D perspectives. That's the description for Fez.
I did not know that his name was Gomez, and I'm happy to have learned that today.
Yeah, there you go. You're already learning about this game.
So now comes the part
Hackers.
where we have to pick an order
Yes.
for these games. A lot of this will have to do with when we're recording with our guests, and I believe we have one of them already scheduled and then general timeframes
We have
for the
2
other
scheduled.
two. Okay.
One has a general timeline, but they're all happening within the next several months. So they'll all be recorded before the end of the year. So that actually doesn't have as big of an impact on the ordering. I think just as long as we space them out.
Okay. I think Animal Well should go toward the end of the season.
Okay.
Anywhere 7, 8, 9 would be fine. Even 10.
Why should it go toward the end?
Just because we're recording with them
because later.
last.
Got
yeah.
it. Okay. So we could do of the 3 guests, Katana Zero could be the first guest
Yep.
episode.
Yep. And then we could put Untitled Goose Game in the middle of the season, at like 5 or 6.
Okay. Should we open with a guest episode?
I don't think so, because we
Okay.
do a lot of stuff at the beginning of the episode, and then when you add that to a guest episode,
Fair.
that makes for a long episode. So
Fair.
maybe we should just lock Katana Zero in at 2. Does that make sense?
Yeah. What would be a good opener? Usually like, Another Crab's Treasure is jumping out at me. Oh, but that would be 2 action games in a row. Never mind.
True. I don't want to do co-op first again.
Same. And I want to save that for maybe like the middle to the end
Yeah.
of the season.
What if we did one shot episode 1? 1-1-1.
1-1?
1-1. Is that okay?
I don't know. Again, I don't know much about the game, so sure, but I don't know.
I mean, I don't think it's, compared to some of our others, I don't think it's the strongest opener, but it is one. It is one opener.
1-1. I don't derive any special meaning from that myself.
Okay.
Just seeing the 1 there. If that's the one reason you're picking it.
I am grasping for reasons to
Okay.
put something at 1.
Well, Inscription is a strong one. That's a hugely popular one, even though it is horror, which is not the most approachable genre.
Mm-hmm.
Is one of the most well-known and most reviewed games on the list.
Okay.
So that could be a strong one too.
All right. Let's just swap them.
So Inscription, Katana Zero, then One Shot. So we're looking at horror and then action and then adventure.
Yep.
Okay. Then we could do maybe not Octodad 4th, maybe Octodad's a little bit later.
Yep. We could swap that. I could do Another Crab's Treasure after One Shot.
Okay. Let's do that.
Um,
Another Crab's Treasure is 4th. It's an action game. Then we would have Untitled Goose Game,
which is fine with
which
me.
is an adventure game. That's our guest, our second guest. Then we could have Octodad.
Yeah, I could do Octodad and Papers, Please in any order.
Do you want Animal Well to be the closer for the season?
It doesn't have to be the closer. You have played it, so if that's what you're feeling.
Can we have it at 9?
Yeah.
There's just something about it being at 9 that makes sense to
Okay.
me.
Yeah, do it. Now, do we want Her Story and Papers, Please next to each other?
I was thinking maybe Papers, Please, Octodad, Her Story, or Her Story, Octodad, Papers, Please.
I like that. I like Her Story, Octodad, Papers, Please.
What do
then
you think
Animal Well.
about Her Story being last?
Like the season closer?
Yeah. Or Octodad being last.
We could do Octodad last. I'd rather do that.
Let's do that. And then we'll sandwich Fez between Papers, Please and Her Story.
Sure.
Whoa. Okay. So we have Inscription, which is a horror game, Katana Zero, an action game, One Shot, an adventure game, Another Crab's Treasure, an action game, Untitled Goose Game, an adventure game, Papers, Please, a simulation game, Fez, a puzzle game, Her Story, an adventure game, Animal Well, a Metroidvania, and Octodad, the co-op game. We do kind of do like action, adventure, action, adventure.
What if could we swap Another Crab's Treasure and Her Story?
Well, Her Story is an adventure. I was thinking something slightly different where we do swap Another Crab's Treasure with Fez.
Okay.
Now I'm looking at the animal games and I'm like, oh God, are there too many animal
No,
games?
there's not too many animal games.
Okay. They're not like too close to each other. We have Animal Well and Octodad. That's fine.
I'm not bothered by, if all of our
Yeah.
games were animal games, I wouldn't be bothered by it.
I think for me, if it was like Untitled Goose Game and then immediately after that, Another Crab's Treasure and then Octodad, like those 3 in a row, that would be a little weird for me. To me, that would be like not having variety when it comes to personality,
Mhm.
even though they're very different games. You're talking about animals. I don't
Yeah.
know.
The only other swap I might do is One Shot and Fez.
Okay.
Fez feels like an episode 3.
Let's do that. Let's do Fez 3rd and One Shot 4th. It does technically put like 2 adventure games next to each other, but they're going to be so different, Disco. They're
Well,
gonna be like-
which one is an adventure game? Which ones are adventure games in this?
So
like,
technically, One Shot and Untitled Goose Game are classified.
Ow.
I don't think it's
Untitled
yeah,
Goose
they're gonna
Game
be
is
so-
barely like.
Well, that was a game that we couldn't find a home for, so we stuck it in. Wait, where did we put it?
I don't know. It's a goose simulator. Maybe
I-
it's a sim.
Oh, we put it in puzzle, dude.
There's a lot of puzzles too.
There are puzzles. It's more than just a puzzle game.
It's more than any of the other things.
Yeah.
Like, Untitled Goose Game is a special game.
It is.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's its own category.
Yeah, I
Okay.
agree.
I think it could be classified under simulation and puzzle and adventure. And I think we just stuck it in puzzle arbitrarily.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I didn't even catch that, but that's how it is. Okay. So now we have Inscription, which is a horror game. We have Katana Zero, which is an action game. We've got Fez, a puzzle game, One Shot, an adventure game, Untitled Goose Game, which is a game all its own, Papers, Please, a simulation, Another Crab's Treasure, an action game, Her Story, an adventure, Animal Well, Metroidvania, Octodad, our co-op game.
Do you like this order?
I really do.
Okay.
I really do. Do you?
Yeah, I'm fine with it. I'm super stoked that Inscription is first because I really like.
Okay, good.
I've had a couple nights over the last couple weeks where I'm just like, I just kind of want to start it. I just want to start it.
Yeah, let's do it.
Cool.
You know what? We started with a darker game with Blasphemous
Yeah,
this season.
and
There
it
you
was
go.
fine. Yeah.
And also Inscription is a kind of a longer game if you want it to be.
Yeah.
So there you go.
I'm looking forward to it.
Okay, so that is our order. We will stick to it for now. Things could change. Plans could fall through. You never know.
I actually already have like half of these games. That's great.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's very good. I'm very glad. But just plan on that, listener. Again, if you have access to these games or you want to get them and you want to play sort of along with us and share your thoughts with us, we'd love for you to come on this journey with us by commenting on stuff on social media or messaging us. We would love that.
Now, there's another thing that we have to mention about season 7 that we have not mentioned yet. If you are a longtime listener, you know that we release episodes weekly. Next season, we are moving to bi-weekly, every other week. Not totally because we're overwhelmed at the end of the season, but mostly because when we release episodes every week, that means we spend you, the listener, spend 2.5 months without Underplayed content. So we're spreading it out. And now at this new release schedule, you will only have, I think, 5 weeks is the math. 5 weeks, twice a year where there's no Underplayed.
That's really good.
So.
That's awesome. Yeah, I'm so excited that we're doing that. And so just expect that things will come slower. We will announce all this. I know a lot of people have probably stopped listening by this point, but we will make it known, as it were.
You will find out. But
all right.
That's season 7.
Nice job picking.
Yeah.
I want to do a high five.
Okay. Could they hear that? I hope so.
I don't know. Where's the waveform here? I think so.
Okay.
I'll add one in. I'll add like a really obviously horrible fake one in.
Cool.
If you can't hear it.
Get a Wilhelm scream in there somehow too.
Now that we're wrapping up, I want to just talk about like what we're looking forward to doing or playing during our break. I have a list of games I'm looking forward to going back to and then games I'm looking forward to starting. First, Curse Crackers For Whom the Bell Toils is going to be on my list to play because it's my jealous game. Also, there's a new game coming out called Astrobot. It is the PlayStation mascot Astrobot getting his like first full-fledged game.
Yeah.
I pre-ordered that. I plan on playing that in early September. And then also, we've talked about this on the show before, but every year, Disco and I are part of a Halloween horror game marathon.
That's right.
And we will be playing Resident Evil 2, the remake, with some of our friends. I plan on playing that ahead of time so that I hopefully know a little bit and can get us unstuck if we get stuck. I don't know if we will, but it's usually helpful to have that. So I'll probably stream that.
I think between you and Quokka, plays a lot of the Resident Evil games. So I think between the two of you,
we should
will be okay.
But we'll plan on playing that close to Halloween as well. And then I have some games with trophies I need to clean up. There's Castle Crashers Remastered.
You're really going to do it?
Well, you and I need to do the online matches.
Oh, right.
Do you want to do that still?
Yeah, I mean, I have to. Yeah, because I have to finish it.
So I want to be intentional about doing that between seasons. Then I want to finish Sea of Stars trophy list, which is just getting those boss fights done. And then several months ago, I started a replay of Fallout 4, which I played back when it came out, but I started it on PlayStation. And so I just want to clean up the DLC trophies.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to commit to that for now and stop before I overpromise what I'm able to do.
We always overpromise. Even when we're trying to underpromise, we
I
never get it
know,
all
it
done.
always happens.
Ugh,
What about you? What are you looking forward to playing?
So I actually already started last night. I want to clean up the trophies in Sea of Stars, but as a result, I have to finish trophies in Gravity Circuit PS5.
Oh, yes, so that you get your first PS5 plat in a game you love.
Yep.
Yes.
So I was working on that last night, and the block I live on lost power for like an hour. I was putting the game down. I'd already put the game down. I was like, I'm at the final boss. I'll put it in rest mode. Like
Yeah.
I always turn off my system. I never put it in rest mode.
Sure.
Put it in rest mode, started, shutting down my computer and everything. And like 10 minutes later, the whole block lost power. So I have to go through that final level again.
Oh, no.
It's not like I lost a lot of progress, but those last levels are pretty hard in Gravity Circuit. So a little bit of a bummer, but I'm going to work on Gravity Circuit, then I'm going to work on Sea of Stars.
Okay.
I would like to find all of the toys in Emochapon, all of the different skins.
Oh, that
I've
sounds
already
fun.
started working on Zeo Drifter. I'm only one trophy away on that now.
Cool.
But then after that, if I'm being realistic, I'm probably going to have to start Grand Soul Story pretty quick.
Yes.
Because that one's a bit of a long one.
And the games that we'll talk about for recording those episodes a little earlier with some of our guests, whatever those end up being.
Oh,
the
yep.
secret games.
Yep. So that means I also would like to finish Smushy Come Home pretty quick
Oh,
too.
yeah. Yeah. Okay, now you're overpromising.
Well,
No.
a little bit, but there. At a certain point, we're getting into ones that are like, well, you kind of have to do this one.
I think some of those things will be really fast for you, though. Like, even though you have to go back to that hard part in Gravity Circuit, I believe you can do it pretty quickly.
I know I can do it. It's a little bit rough, and then I get to start working on some of the easier trophies. I still have quite a few to get, but it'll go pretty quick, and then I know that Sea of Stars will go pretty quick too.
Okay. Very good. And then I know you're going to go transform a toy right after this. I hope they're still like okay with you coming at this time that I kept you for so long.
No, you're good.
Anything else going on?
Something went on recently. You met our friend Cater Blossom.
Yeah, I mean, I was asking about you, but I just wanted to give you the opportunity. But yes,
I'm a dad. That's all
that's all that's going on.
Yeah,
I got to meet our friend Cater Blossom in person. It was so awesome. It was so fun. I had a work trip to Maine. I was like, hey, I'm going to Maine. And we were like, yeah, let's meet each other. And we had one night on my business trip where we could meet each other. And she said, I think, quote, I'll come drive your ass around. Because I didn't have access to the rental car that we were using. Right. So she was very generous and brought by some like local Maine snacks as well. And I shared some of these snacks with my coworkers, including garlic butter popcorn. Or I should say garlic butter, because that's what it says on the package. It says garlic butter popcorn and all dressed chips, as well as Allen's coffee brandy. And so that was really kind of her. We went to dinner at a spot really close to my hotel room, and we just talked about podcast stuff. We talked about Twitch. We talked about mutual friends. We talked about significant others, and just like, future plans for content. It was so great. It was so great to meet her. And I knew she would be awesome and really nice. She ended up being even more awesome and nice in person.
Heckers.
If that's even possible. Yeah. So, yeah.
Awesome. Well, I'm glad the two of you met. Yeah, and that's it. I hope that I get to join that club someday.
Yeah, we'd talked several times about how, this kind of thing will happen again with others that we know too.
Yeah.
So, yeah, you will be part of that.
Cool.
Okay. Well, it's so hard to end these, but that is the end of this episode and season of Underplayed. You can find more of our episodes at kzum.org/underplayed and on common podcast platforms like Spotify or Apple Podcasts. Our music was composed by Jack Rodenberg. Our art comes from Oni Mochi. Underplayed is on Twitter, Instagram, and Threads at UnderplayedPod. You can find me in those places at BoPo. That's BO_PO. I'm also on Backlogged, where you can see my game lists and what I'm currently playing.
And I am DiscoCola in all of those places as well, including Backlogged, where I have kind of failed to update my top 100 lists in the last few episodes, but there are definitely games that need to go on there now. And you can also find Underplayed on Twitch, twitch.tv/Underplayed podcast, where we play co-op games. Like we will be playing Octodad soon. And we also premiere episodes the night before the actual premiere. And you get to hang out with us in the chat. And if you're in the chat right now, type in season 7 snacks. And that's that.
Like snacks they want us, or you want them to literally type season 7
Season
snacks.
7 snacks.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah, those words.
Cool.
And if you do it wrong, you're banned.
Don't say season 7 slaps, because we don't know if it'll slap yet.
We don't know that. Yeah.
We don't know that.
It could be terrible.
But we do know we will have season 7 snacks.
Yes.
I'm going to be snacking
Yeah.
on some indie games. Next season, we'll have plenty more secret and featured games to play and review. Until then, everyone, keep on playing.